The old star chart said Earth should be here. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at empty space filled with rocks and debris. His hands gripped the metal railing until his knuckles turned white. This was supposed to be humanity's greatest day. After 10,000 years, they had finally found their way back home. But home was gone. "Captain, the scans are complete," Lieutenant Amy Torres said from her station. Her voice shook slightly. She had been excited just hours ago, ready to see the legendary blue planet all humans learned about in school. Now her face was pale. Jake turned to look at her. "Tell me what you found." Amy touched her screen, and a holographic image appeared in the middle of the bridge. Instead of a planet, thousands of asteroid-sized chunks floated in space. They glowed with a sick green light. "The radiation signature is unique, sir. These readings match old records we have of Zarathi weapons." The bridge became very quiet. Every officer stopped what they were doing. The Zarathi were known across this part of the galaxy as an old, powerful empire. They controlled 17 star systems and had ruled for thousands of years. Commander Paul Fisher walked over from his tactical station. He was a tall man with gray hair who had served in the fleet for 30 years. "Captain, if the Zarathi destroyed Earth, it happened long ago. The decay patterns in the radiation show this happened approximately 10,000 years ago." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. 10,000 years ago was exactly when humanity's records became confused. That was when the Great Exodus happened, when a small group of humans escaped through experimental wormhole technology. The history books said Earth had gone silent, but nobody knew why. The early colonists had been too busy surviving on new worlds to investigate. Now they knew the truth. Earth hadn't gone silent, it had been murdered. "How many people lived on Earth when it was destroyed?" Jake asked quietly. Amy checked her historical database. 12 billion, sir. The records show 12 billion humans lived on Earth at the time of the last transmission. 12 billion souls. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. 12 billion people who never got the chance to escape. Men, women, children. Entire cities, entire countries, entire cultures. All of it turned to radioactive dust floating in the void. "Sir," a young ensign named Chris Baker spoke up from the sensor station. "I'm detecting something else. There are trace elements in the debris that suggest biological matter. The Zarathi didn't just destroy the planet, they made sure nothing could ever live there again." Paul Fisher's face hardened. "They salted the Earth, so to speak, made sure that even if anyone survived, they could never return." Jake walked to the main viewer, a massive window that showed the debris field. Somewhere in those floating rocks were the atoms that had once been mountains and oceans. Somewhere in that green glowing dust were the remains of humanity's greatest cities. Paris, New York, Tokyo, London, all gone. "Captain," Amy said, "should we inform Admiral Lisa Grant?" Jake nodded slowly. "Yes, open a secure channel to the fleet." The screen changed to show Admiral Lisa Grant's face. She was aboard the flagship Heritage, waiting with the main fleet 3 light years away. Her expression was hopeful. "Captain Morrison, have you found Earth?" "We found where Earth used to be, Admiral," Jake said. He sent her the scan data. "The Zarathi destroyed it 10,000 years ago. Complete planetary annihilation." Jake watched. Lisa's face changed as she read the data. The hope died in her eyes, replaced by something harder. Lisa Grant was descended from the original Exodus survivors, just like all of them. Her family had kept journals from those early days, stories of the world they'd lost. 12 billion people, Lisa said quietly. Then louder, 12 billion people, and the Zarathi turned them to dust. "Admiral, there's more," Paul Fisher added. "We've been monitoring Zarathi communications from their nearby systems. They have no record of this in their active databases. To them, destroying Earth was so unimportant they didn't even keep it in their history files." Lisa's jaw tightened. "They've destroyed so many worlds they can't even remember them all." Jake thought about that. Humanity had spent 10,000 years wondering what happened to Earth. They had developed incredible technology, built a civilization across 100 worlds, become one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. All that time they had carried the memory of Earth with them. Every human child learned about the blue planet with its single moon. Every human colony had museums dedicated to Earth's history, and the ones who destroyed it didn't even remember doing it. "Admiral," Jake said, "the Zarathi Empire still exists. They're still in power. Their technology hasn't advanced much in 10,000 years, but they still control their 17 systems. And they're still destroying worlds," Amy added, pulling up recent intelligence reports. 6 months ago, they eliminated a pre-space flight civilization in the Kelos system. They called it pest control. Pest control. That's what Earth had been to them. Pests to be eliminated. Admiral Lisa was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was steady and cold. "Captain Morrison, I want you to gather every piece of data you can from the debris field. Every scan, every reading, every particle analysis. We're going to need proof when we bring this to the Council." The Council was humanity's governing body, representatives from all 100 human colonies. They would have to approve any major military action. "You're thinking of war," Jake said. It wasn't a question. "I'm thinking of justice," Lisa replied. "For 10,000 years we've grown strong. We've developed quantum shields, antimatter reactors, weapons that can bend space itself. We're not the scared refugees who fled Earth anymore. We're something the Zarathi have never faced before." Paul Fisher spoke up. "Admiral, our technology is at least 1,000 years ahead of theirs. They're still using the same plasma weapons and crystal-based computers they had when they destroyed Earth. Because they've never had to improve," Lisa said. "They've never faced a real threat. They became comfortable in their power, lazy in their dominance." She looked directly at Jake through the screen. "Captain, I want you to take your ship and scout the nearest Zarathi system. Don't engage, just observe. Learn everything you can about their current defenses." "Yes, Admiral," Jake said. "And Captain," Lisa added, "that debris field you're looking at, those aren't just rocks. Those are the remains of 12 billion people who never got justice. Remember that." The communication ended. Jake stood on his bridge, looking out at the ruins of humanity's birthplace. His crew was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. They had come here expecting to find their ancient home. Instead, they had found a grave. But they had also found something else. A purpose, a reason. "Helm," Jake said. "Set course for the Zarathi border. Maximum stealth." "Yes, sir," the pilot responded. As the ship turned away from the debris field, Jake took one last look at what had been Earth. In school, he had learned about an old Earth custom. When someone died, their loved ones would often promise them justice. It was a way of honoring the dead. "We remember you," he whispered to the void. "All 12 billion of you. And we're going to make sure the galaxy never forgets what happened here." The warship engaged its engines and disappeared into the darkness between stars. Behind them, the radioactive remains of Earth continued their eternal drift, waiting for justice that was 10,000 years overdue. But justice was coming. Humanity was no longer the frightened species that had fled in desperation. They had evolved, grown, become something powerful, and they remembered. They remembered everything. The Zarathi Empire had destroyed Earth and forgotten about it. That was their first mistake. Their second mistake was leaving survivors. Jake looked at his crew. Each face showed the same determination. They were the children of Earth, even if they had never seen it. And children always came home one way or another. "All stations prepare for wormhole jump," Jake commanded. It's time the Zarathi learned that some pests have a very long memory. The ship vanished into a fold in space, leaving the graveyard of Earth behind. But not forgotten. Never forgotten. The war room at Nexus Station was the largest meeting space humanity had ever built. It needed to be. 117 captains stood around the central holographic display, each commanding a warship capable of destroying a small moon. Admiral Lisa Grant stood at the center, her uniform perfect, her face calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. 3 weeks ago, Captain Jake Morrison confirmed what we all feared, she began. Her voice carried to every corner of the room. Earth was destroyed by the Zarathi Empire 10,000 years ago. 12 billion humans died. Our entire homeworld was turned to radioactive dust. The room was silent. Many of the captains had already heard the news, but hearing it officially, confirmed still hurt. Captain Ruth Coleman of the Dreadnought Retribution clenched her fists. Captain Dan Phillips of the carrier Independence stared at the floor. They all felt it. The weight of 12 billion ghosts. Lisa continued. Captain Morrison spent the last 2 weeks scouting Zerathi defenses. Jake, tell them what you found. Jake stepped forward and activated his data pad. The holographic display changed to show a Zerathi fleet. The ships looked like giant crystals, beautiful and deadly. The Zerathi military hasn't changed much in 10,000 years. They still use plasma cannons, crystal-based shields, and antimatter torpedoes. Their fastest ships can reach half the speed of light in normal space. Captain Ruth Coleman laughed, but there was no humor in it. Half light speed? Our slowest cargo ship can do better than that. That's the point, Jake said. They've been the dominant power for so long they stopped improving. They haven't needed to. Every species they've encountered has been weaker than them. He changed the display to show weapon comparisons. Their most powerful plasma cannon has a range of 10,000 kilometers. Our standard quantum beams can reach 50,000. Their shields can absorb about 3 terajoules of energy. Our smallest frigate can output 20 terajoules in a single burst. Dan Phillips raised his hand. So we're stronger. But they have numbers. How many ships do they have? Approximately 3,000 combat vessels across 17 systems, Jake answered. We have 117. The room erupted in discussion. Some captains looked worried. Others looked eager. Admiral Lisa raised her hand for silence. Numbers don't matter when the technology gap is this wide, she said. One of our ships could destroy 100 of theirs. But this isn't about simple destruction. We're not them. We're going to do this right. She activated a new display. It showed all 17 Zerathi systems at once. We're going to hit them all simultaneously. Every system, every military base, every weapons platform, all at the same moment. Captain Sam Wright from the destroyer Thunder spoke up. Admiral Howe, even with wormhole technology, coordinating that kind of attack would be nearly impossible. Lisa smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. Nearly impossible for someone else. Not for us. Chief Engineer Kevin Brown has been working on something special. Kevin, a young man with oil-stained hands, stepped forward. He looked nervous, speaking to so many high-ranking officers. We've developed a quantum entanglement communication system. Every ship will be linked in real time, no matter the distance. When the Admiral gives the order, every ship will receive it at exactly the same instant. The captains looked at each other. Quantum entanglement communication was theoretical even, by human standards. If it worked, it would change warfare forever. It works, Kevin added quickly. We've tested it between here and the Perseus colony. That's 800 light-years, 0 delay. Ruth Coleman whistled. The Zerathi won't know what hit them. That's the idea, Lisa said. But there's more to this than just military victory. Show them the recordings, Jake. Jake activated another file. The room heard Zerathi voices translated into human language. The aliens were discussing their recent destruction of a primitive civilization. They laughed about it. They compared it to stepping on insects. This was recorded last week, Jake said. They're still doing it. Still destroying worlds they consider beneath them. In their history files, we found records of 43 civilizations they've eliminated. Earth was just one of many. The anger in the room was like a physical thing. These captains commanded enough firepower to crack planets, and every one of them wanted to use it. Which brings us to the real question, Lisa said. What do we do when we win, because we will win? Their technology is outdated, their tactics are ancient, and they have no idea we exist. So what happens after? Captain Nancy Roberts from the AudioBook assault carrier Freedom raised her hand. We could destroy them completely, make sure they never threaten anyone again. We could, Lisa agreed. It would be easy. It would be justified. But would it be right? The room was quiet. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. If they destroyed the Zerathi completely, how were they different from them? Dan Phillips spoke carefully. My grandmother was one of the original Exodus survivors. She kept a diary. You know what she wrote about most? Not Earth's technology or cities. She wrote about Earth's values, about choosing to be better than our enemies. About justice, not revenge. Justice, Lisa repeated. That's what we're after. We're going to defeat them completely, remove their ability to harm anyone ever again. But we're not going to commit genocide. We're going to show them something they've never shown anyone else. Mercy. Some captains looked unhappy about this. Ruth Coleman voiced what many were thinking. Admiral, they killed 12 billion people. They don't deserve mercy. No, they don't, Lisa agreed. But we're not doing it for them. We're doing it for us. To prove that 10,000 years of growth didn't just make us stronger. It made us better. She activated the final display. It showed a detailed battle plan. Ships were assigned to specific targets. Timing was calculated down to the microsecond. Every military installation will be neutralized, Lisa explained. Every weapon will be destroyed. Every warship will be disabled. But we minimize civilian casualties. We're precise, we're efficient, and we're controlled. The Zerathi Empire ends, but the Zerathi species survives, under very strict conditions. Jake added more details. After the military phase, we establish a containment protocol. They'll be restricted to their home system for 1,000 years. Any attempt to rebuild military technology will be met with immediate response. They'll have to learn to live without conquering others. Captain Greg Young from the battleship Victory asked, "What about their slave species? Intelligence shows they control dozens of subjugated worlds. They'll be freed," Lisa said simply. "We'll help them establish their own governments, their own defenses. The Zerathi Empire becomes just the Zerathi homeworld." The captains discussed among themselves. It was a good plan. More importantly, it was a human plan. Not driven by blind rage, but by calculated justice. Kevin Brown raised his hand nervously. "Admiral, there's one more thing. We've been working on something for after the war. A way to honor Earth." Lisa nodded for him to continue. "We want to rebuild it," Kevin said. The room went completely silent. "Not bring it back exactly as it was. That's impossible. But we can gather the debris, use our matter reconstruction technology, create a new Earth. It would take decades, maybe centuries. But we could do it." Many captains had tears in their eyes. The idea of Earth restored, even as a reconstruction, was powerful. Every human colony would contribute, Kevin continued. Soil from their worlds, water from their oceans, genetic samples from their ecosystems. The new Earth would carry a piece of everywhere humanity has been, a monument to both our loss and our survival. Lisa looked around the room. She saw determination on every face. These weren't just military officers, they were the children of Earth, even if they'd never seen it. They carried the memory of humanity's birthplace in their hearts. "Then it's decided," she said. "In exactly 72 hours, we begin Operation Homecoming. Every ship will be in position. When I give the signal, we strike all 17 systems at once. The Zerathi Empire ends, and justice begins." Ruth Coleman asked the question everyone was thinking. "What about Earth's memorial? The 12 billion who died?" Lisa's expression softened slightly. "Every name we can recover will be inscribed on monuments across the new Earth. They won't be forgotten, not ever." The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Every detail was reviewed. Every contingency was planned. When it finally ended, the captains returned to their ships with a shared purpose. Jake stood with Lisa after everyone left, looking at the battle plan. "Do you think we're doing the right thing, showing mercy to the ones who showed none?" Lisa was quiet for a moment. "Jake, if we destroy them completely, we become them. We become a species that eliminates others because we can. That's not what humanity should be. We're the species that survived against impossible odds. We're the species that grew stronger from tragedy. We're the proof that victims can become protectors without becoming monsters." Jake nodded slowly. "The Zerathi won't understand mercy. They've never shown it or received it." "Then we'll teach them," Lisa said. "It might be the most important lesson the galaxy ever learns. That strength doesn't require cruelty. That justice doesn't require genocide. That humans, the species they dismissed as pests, became something greater than they ever could be. She looked at the countdown timer on the wall. 71 hours, 43 minutes. Get your assy. Governor Zektar enjoyed his morning ritual. From his crystalline palace on Varus Prime, the Zerathi homeworld, he watched the three suns rise over the Amethyst Mountains. He had ruled this world for 800 years. His grandfather had ruled for 2,000 years before him. The Zerathi Empire was eternal, unchanging, perfect. His aide, a smaller Zerathi named Vexilon, entered the chamber. The creature's 6 legs clicked against the crystal floor. Governor, we have reports from the outer systems. All is quiet. The subject races remain compliant. Of course they do, Zektar said, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. We are Zerathi. We have ruled for eons. We will rule for eons more. That was when the sky cracked open. 17 wormholes appeared simultaneously above the capital city. From each one emerged a ship unlike anything the Zerathi had ever seen. They were angular, dark, and somehow wrong to look at. They hurt the eyes, as if they existed in more dimensions than they should. Zektar's communication sphere erupted with panicked reports. This wasn't just happening on Varus Prime. Every Zerathi world was reporting the same thing. Unknown ships, appearing from nowhere. Fire the defense platforms, Zektar screamed. Destroy them! Thousands of plasma beams shot upward from the surface. The orbital defense stations, each one the size of a city, opened fire with weapons that had protected Varus Prime for millennia. The beams hit the strange ships and simply disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed. They just stopped existing. Then, a voice spoke. It came from every speaker, every communication device, every piece of technology on the planet. It spoke in perfect Zerathi, but something about it was alien, cold, determined. Zerathi Empire, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Reclamation Fleet. 10,000 years ago you destroyed our homeworld. You killed 12 billion of our people. You called us pests. We call ourselves human, and we remember. Zektar felt something he had never felt before. Fear. The human ships responded to the attack. But they didn't fire weapons, not in any way. The Zerathi understood. Instead, space itself seemed to bend around the defense platforms. The massive stations, built from the strongest materials in the galaxy, crumpled like paper. Metal and crystal twisted in impossible ways. In seconds, every orbital defense around Varus Prime was gone. Similar reports came from the other 16 systems. The defenses that had protected the Zerathi Empire for thousands of years were being destroyed in minutes. Send the fleet, Zektar commanded. All ships, destroy these intruders. 300 Zerathi warships rose from Varus Prime. They were beautiful vessels carved from single pieces of living crystal, powered by antimatter cores. Each one had conquered entire systems. Together, they were considered unstoppable. The human ships waited until the Zerathi fleet was in space. Then they acted. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his bridge as his single ship engaged 50 Zerathi vessels. Activate gravity wells, he ordered calmly. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Amy Torres, touched her console. Invisible fields of distorted gravity grabbed the Zerathi ships. The proud crystal vessels were pulled apart at the molecular level. Their antimatter cores tried to explode, but even the explosions were contained and compressed into nothing. In DOI, 12 seconds, 50 Zerathi warships became dust. Across all 17 systems, the scene repeated. The entire Zerathi fleet, 3,000 ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, was destroyed in less than 3 minutes. Not a single human ship was damaged. On Varus Prime's surface, panic spread through the crystal cities. Zerathi citizens ran through the streets, their 6 legs carrying them nowhere because there was nowhere to run. The sky belonged to the humans now. Then the ground forces arrived. Commander Nancy Roberts led the first wave. She and her soldiers didn't use dropships. They teleported directly to the surface, appearing in flashes of blue light. Their powered armor made them 3 meters tall and stronger than any biological creature had a right to be. The Zarathi military responded with ground forces, soldiers in crystal armor carrying plasma rifles, weapons that had conquered 100 worlds. They fired at the humans. Nancy walked through the plasma fire like it was rain. Her armor's quantum shields didn't just stop the attacks, they made them never happen. From the Zarathi perspective, they would fire their weapons and then suddenly they hadn't fired them. The humans existed slightly outside normal space-time, untouchable. Surrender, Nancy broadcast on all frequencies. This doesn't have to be a slaughter. The Zarathi commander, a veteran of 50 campaigns, charged at her with a molecular blade that could cut through starship hulls. Nancy caught the blade with her armored hand and crushed it to powder. Then she gently pushed the commander, sending him flying 30 meters into a wall. Gently for her. He survived, but barely. Within an hour, every military installation on Veros Prime was under human control. The same message came from the other 16 worlds. Total victory. Total domination. Jake transported down to the capital city. He walked through streets filled with terrified Zarathi civilians. They pressed themselves against walls as he passed, their 6 eyes wide with fear. He felt no satisfaction in their terror. This wasn't about making them afraid. It was about making them understand. He entered the governor's palace. Zektar was there, surrounded by his guards. The guards raised their weapons, then lowered them. They had seen what happened to the fleet. They knew resistance was pointless. "Please," Zektar said. The word was strange in his mouth. Zarathi didn't say please. They commanded or they destroyed. "We don't even remember your world, it was so long ago. We've destroyed so many." Jake removed his helmet. His human face looked at the alien governor. "That's exactly the problem. You've destroyed so many worlds you can't remember them all. But we remember. We remember 12 billion voices crying out as their world burned. We remember children turned to ash. We remember cities older than your empire reduced to radioactive dust. What do you want?" Zektar asked. "Resources? Technology? Slaves?" "Justice," Jake said simply. More humans entered the palace. They set up communication equipment. Soon, a holographic image appeared. It was Admiral Lisa Grant. "Governor Zektar," she said. "By the authority of the Terran Reclamation Fleet, the Zarathi Empire is hereby dissolved. Your military is destroyed. Your weapons are gone. Your subject races are free." On screens throughout the palace, images appeared. Every Zarathi world conquered in less than an hour. Every fleet destroyed. Every weapon neutralized. The empire that had stood for eons had fallen in minutes. "This is impossible," Vexilon whispered. "We are the strong. We have always been the strong." "No," Lisa said. "You were bullies. You found species weaker than you and destroyed them. You never faced a real opponent. You never had to grow, to improve, to become better. While you stagnated in your arrogance, we evolved. We became something you never expected." "What?" Zektar asked. "Survivors," Jake answered. "You made us refugees and we became explorers. You made us victims and we became protectors. You tried to end us and we became eternal." Nancy Roberts entered with more reports. "Admiral, all 17 systems secured. Zarathi military casualties at 18%. Civilian casualties at 0.3%. Zektar's eyes widened. "You avoided killing civilians?" "We're not you," Lisa said. "We don't destroy the helpless, we protect them, even when they're our enemies." The governor struggled to understand. In Zarathi culture, the strong destroyed the weak. It was the natural order. These humans were clearly stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They could destroy the Zarathi completely, but they weren't. "Why?" he asked. "Why show mercy?" Jake thought about the debris field that had once been Earth. He thought about 12 billion people who never got the chance to escape. He thought about 10,000 years of wondering, of growing, of becoming something more. "Because," he said, Mercy is what separates justice from revenge. We're going to confine you to this system for 1,000 years. You're going to learn to live without conquering others. You're going to watch as the species you enslaved build their own civilizations. And maybe, just maybe, you'll learn what we learned in our exile. What? Zektar asked. That strength isn't about destruction. It's about protection. It's about choosing to be better than those who wronged you. The screens showed more images. Zarathi colonies surrendering, slave species being freed, human ships establishing orbital monitoring stations that would watch the Zarathi for the next 1,000 years. Every ship you build will be watched, Lisa explained. Every weapon you try to create will be destroyed. Every attempt to leave this system will be stopped. You're not being destroyed, but you're being contained. You'll never threaten another species again. Zektar wanted to rage, to fight, to resist, but he looked at the humans around him. They had destroyed his entire military in minutes. They had conquered 17 systems in an hour, and they had done it while barely killing anyone. You could destroy us all, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Jake said simply. Easily. Your weapons can't hurt us. Your ships can't match us. We could turn every Zarathi world to dust just like you did to Earth, but we won't. Why? Vexilon asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Nancy answered this time. Because 12 billion humans died without a choice. We have a choice. And we choose to be what you never were. W. The Grand Council chamber of Varos Prime had never seen such a gathering. Built to showcase Zarathi power, its crystalline walls now reflected the images of humanity's victory. Every surviving Zarathi leader from all 17 systems had been brought here. They sat in silence, their 6 eyes focused on the humans who stood before them. Admiral Lisa Grant stood at the center, flanked by Captain Jake Morrison and Commander Paul Fisher. Behind them, holographic displays showed the devastation across the Zarathi Empire. Every military base destroyed, every warship reduced to atoms, every weapon neutralized. The conquest had taken exactly 72 hours, just as planned. The Zarathi Supremarch, Kexvar the Eternal, sat on what had been his throne of power for 3,000 years. He was ancient even by Zarathi standards, his crystal exoskeleton dulled with age. He had overseen the destruction of dozens of civilizations. Now he faced judgment from one that had refused to die. You stand before us as conquerors, Kexvar said, his voice still carrying authority despite his defeat. The strong have defeated the weak. It is the way of the universe. Lisa stepped forward. No. The oppressed have defeated their oppressors. The survivors have overcome their would-be killers. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about strength, it's about justice. She activated a display. It showed Earth as it once was. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds, beautiful and alive. Then it showed Earth as Jake had found it. Radioactive debris floating in the void. 10,000 years ago you destroyed this world, Lisa said. 12 billion humans lived there. They had families, dreams, hopes for the future. You ended all of it. Do you remember? Kexvar's mandibles clicked dismissively. We have cleansed many worlds of inferior species. It is our right as the superior race. Paul Fisher laughed, but there was no humor in it. Superior? Your technology hasn't advanced in 10 millennia. Your tactics are ancient. Your entire military was destroyed by a force 1/30th your size. You're not superior. You're stagnant. Another Zarathi leader, Govtan of the Third System, spoke up. You speak of justice, but what you mean is revenge. You will destroy us as we destroyed you. If we wanted revenge, you'd already be dead, Jake said. Every Zarathi in the galaxy would be dust. We have the power to do it. Your own scans confirm it. Our weapons could crack your worlds like eggs. But look around. You're alive. Your civilians are unharmed. Your cities still stand. The Zarathi leaders looked at each other in confusion. In their culture, the victorious destroyed the defeated completely. Mercy was weakness. Compassion was folly. Lisa pulled up more displays. These are our terms. They are not negotiable. The first display showed a star map. The Zarathi will be confined to your home system for 1,000 years. Any attempt to leave will result in immediate destruction of the vessel. The second display showed technical readouts. All military technology will be destroyed. You will be allowed defensive shields for asteroid protection and basic space travel within your system. Nothing more. The third display showed dozens of different species. Every race you've enslaved will be granted immediate independence. We will help them establish their own governments and defenses. The fourth display showed monitoring stations. Human observers will remain in orbit around every Zarathi world. Any attempt to rebuild weapons will be stopped. Supreme Arch HFY stood, his ancient frame towering over the humans. This is outrageous. We are the Zarathi Empire. We have ruled for 50,000 years. Your empire ended 3 days ago, Lisa said calmly. You are now the Zarathi remnant. You will learn to live without conquering others, or you will not live at all. You cannot do this. Another leader, Zarchen, shrieked. We are billions. You are a handful of ships. Nancy Roberts entered the chamber with a datapad. Admiral, final casualty report. Zarathi military losses, 800,000 personnel, 3,000 ships, 47,000 defense platforms. Zarathi civilian losses, 12,000, mostly from panic-related accidents. Human losses, 0. The number hung in the air. 0. The humans had conquered 17 systems, destroyed an entire empire, and hadn't lost a single person. How? HFY asked, his voice now quiet. How is this possible? Lisa's expression softened slightly. Because while you were busy destroying helpless civilizations, we were learning. Every human child grows up hearing about Earth, about how we lost everything and survived, about how we scattered to the stars with nothing but hope and determination. We developed technology you can't imagine because we had to. We became strong because we had no choice. Jake added, You created us, in a way. By destroying Earth, you forced humanity to evolve, to become something greater than we ever would have been on one world. We spread across the galaxy. We learned from every species we met. We took the best of every culture and made it our own. Paul pulled up images of human colonies. Look at what we built. 100 worlds, each one different, each one thriving. We didn't conquer them. We settled empty worlds or were invited by other species. We became partners, protectors, friends to those who needed help. Weakness, Supreme Arch HFY spat. Really? Lisa asked. Then how did weakness defeat your strength? How did mercy overcome your cruelty? How did 117 human ships destroy your empire of thousands? She walked closer to the throne. The truth is, your way doesn't work. Ruling through fear and destruction only lasts until someone stronger comes along. And someone stronger always comes along. We're proof of that. Govton stood up. If you will not destroy us, then we will rebuild. We will wait out your 1,000 years, and then we will have our revenge. Lisa smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile, but it wasn't kind either. In 1,000 years, we'll be even stronger. Our technology advances every generation. Yours has been the same for eons. In 1,000 years, the gap between us will be even wider. But more importantly, in 1,000 years, you might have learned something. What? HFY asked. How to coexist. How to build instead of destroy. How to create instead of consume. She gestured to the displays. Look at your history. 50,000 years of conquest. What have you created? What art? What science? What philosophy? You've been so focused on destruction that you've created nothing of lasting value. Jake stepped forward with a special display. This is what we're building where Earth used to be. The hologram showed construction ships gathering the debris of Earth, massive machines using gravity manipulation and matter reconstruction to slowly form a new world. We're rebuilding our home, Jake said. Not because we can live there. We have 100 worlds now. But because Earth deserves to exist again. Every human colony is contributing. Soil, water, genetic samples. The new Earth will carry a piece of everywhere humanity has been. That's the difference between us. Paul added, you destroy, we create, you end stories, we write new chapters. Supramarch Kexvar was quiet for a long moment. His ancient mind tried to process what he was seeing. These humans had every right to destroy the Zarathi. They had the power to do it easily, but they were choosing not to. I don't understand, he admitted. You are the strong. We are now the weak. The strong destroy the weak. It is the law of the universe. No, Lisa said firmly. That's the law of primitives, the law of those who never evolved past their base instincts. The true law of the universe is that the strong protect the weak. The capable help the helpless. That's how civilizations rise. That's how species survive. She pulled up one final display. It showed the 43 civilizations the Zarathi had destroyed. Each one had a name, a history, a culture that was now gone forever. These species will never get justice, Lisa said. They're gone, but they'll be remembered. We're establishing a memorial on the new Earth. Every species you destroyed will have a monument. Their stories will be told. They'll be remembered forever, as victims of your cruelty and symbols of why we fight against it. And what of us? Kexvar asked. How will we be remembered? That depends on you, Lisa said. You can be remembered as the empire that learned from its mistakes, that chose to become better, or you can be remembered as the empire that had to be caged because it couldn't stop destroying. The choice is yours. She turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and one more thing. We've been in contact with 12 of your former slave species. They're very interested in their newfound freedom. Some of them want to establish trade. Others want to study your technology. A few want nothing to do with you. But none of them want revenge. We've advised them against it. Why? Zarchan asked. Because revenge perpetuates the cycle, Jake answered. Someone hurts you, you hurt them, they hurt you back, it never ends. Justice breaks the cycle. Justice says the harm stops here. The human delegation began to leave. Kexvar called out one last time. What if we refuse your terms? What if we fight? Lisa stopped at the door. She didn't turn around. Then you'll join Earth as cosmic dust. But unlike Earth, you'll have chosen your fate. Earth never got that choice. You do. Choose wisely. She left, followed by her officers. The Zarathi leaders sat in their crystal chamber, surrounded by the wreckage of their empire. For the first time in 50,000 years, they were not the masters of the galaxy. They were prisoners in their own home, but they were alive. That was more than they had given Earth. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Zarathi Empire. Where Earth once orbited, massive constructor ships worked day and night. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted after the war, stood on the observation deck of Lighthouse Station. The view still took his breath away. The skeleton of a planet was taking shape. Enormous gravity generators pulled the radioactive debris of old Earth together, while matter purification systems cleaned the contamination from 10,000 years of decay. It looked like a giant sphere of scaffolding and light, slowly filling with substance. Dr. Helen Carter, the chief architect of the restoration project, stood beside him. Her hair had gone gray in the past year from the stress of the project, but her eyes shone with excitement. The core is almost complete, she said, showing him a holographic model. We're using the original iron from Earth's core, purified and restructured. The mantle is more complex. We're having to recreate the mineral composition from historical records. How long until it's habitable? Jake asked. 50 years for basic atmosphere and oceans, another 20 for ecosystems. The first colonists could arrive in about 70 years, but it won't be fully Earth-like for maybe 200 years. Jake nodded. 200 years was nothing compared to the 10,000 years of exile. What about the contributions from the colonies? Helen smiled and pulled up another display. Every human world has sent something. New Sydney sent 2 billion tons of ocean water. Arcadia sent topsoil from their farmlands. Haven sent genetic samples from their forests. Even the newest colonies, the ones founded just 50 years ago, sent what they could. It won't be the same Earth, Jake said quietly. No, Helen agreed. But in some ways it will be better. The old Earth was just one world story. This Earth will carry the story of humanity's entire journey. Every place we've been, every world we've touched, will be part of it. Commissioner Amy Torres entered the observation deck. She had taken over the Zarathi monitoring division after the war. "Admiral, I have the latest reports from the Zarathi systems." Jake turned to her. "How are they doing?" "Better than expected, actually. Without the need to maintain their military, they've had to redirect their resources to civilian infrastructure. They're building hospitals, schools, research centers, things they never prioritized before." "Any attempts to rebuild weapons?" 3 attempts in the past month. All stopped before they could produce anything. They're learning, slowly, that we're serious about the 1,000-year containment. Paul Fisher joined them, carrying a data pad. The freed slave species are doing well too. The Kalari have established their first democratic government. The Threen are rebuilding their cities. The Morvac actually sent us a thank you message. A thank you? Jake was surprised. They said, and I quote, "For showing us that the strong can choose to protect rather than destroy. We will remember this lesson." They stood together, watching the Earth slowly reform. Construction drones the size of cities moved in perfect coordination, laying down the foundations of continents. "The Zarathi still don't understand," Amy said. "I've been monitoring their communications. They keep asking why we didn't destroy them. They can't grasp the concept of mercy from a position of strength." "They'll learn," Helen said. "Or their children will. Or their children's children. Change takes time." Jake was about to respond when an alert came through his communicator. "Admiral, we have visitors approaching the construction site. It's a diplomatic vessel from the Galactic Council." The Galactic Council was a loose confederation of spacefaring species. Humanity had been invited to join after the war, but had declined, preferring to maintain their independence. "Let them approach," Jake ordered. Soon, a small, elegant ship docked with Lighthouse Station. 3 beings emerged. One was a Talari, tall and thin with blue skin. One was a Bonth, short and covered in fur. The third was a Yoran, with their distinctive crystalline features that looked nothing like the Zarathi's harsh angles. "Admiral Morrison," the Talari ambassador spoke, her voice melodious. "I am Ambassador Sina. We've come to witness the reconstruction of Earth." "You're welcome to observe," Jake said carefully. "But why the interest?" The Bonth ambassador, who introduced himself as Gret, answered, "Because what you're doing here is unprecedented. In the history of the galaxy, no species has ever rebuilt their destroyed homeworld, and no species has ever shown mercy to those who destroyed it." The Yoran ambassador, Vil, added, "The entire galaxy is watching. Some species think you're weak for not destroying the Zarathi. Others think you're the strongest beings who have ever existed, because you could destroy them but choose not to." Jake led them to the observation deck. When they saw the Earth reconstruction, all 3 ambassadors fell silent. "It's magnificent," Sina whispered. "You're not just rebuilding a world, you're rebuilding hope." "That's the idea," Helen said. "Earth was humanity's beginning. Its destruction should have been our end. Instead, it became our catalyst. Now its reconstruction will be our statement to the galaxy." "What statement?" Gret asked. "That nothing is forever lost," Jake answered. "That from the greatest tragedies can come the greatest triumphs. That victims can become victors without becoming villains." Vil studied the construction with interest. "The Zarathi Empire terrorized the galaxy for 50,000 years. Everyone was afraid of them. Now everyone is afraid of you. We don't want fear," Amy said firmly. "We want peace. We want a galaxy where no species has to worry about being destroyed because they're weaker than their neighbors. Which is why we've made an offer to every species in this sector," Paul added. "Any world that wants protection can have it. No conquest, no control, just protection. If someone attacks them, we respond." Sina's eyes widened. "You're offering to be protectors of the entire sector?" "Someone has to be," Jake said. "The Zarathi proved that leaving the strong unchecked leads to countless tragedies. We won't conquer anyone, but we won't let anyone else conquer either. The ambassadors exchanged glances. This was unprecedented. A species powerful enough to rule the galaxy choosing to protect it instead. What do you want in return? Gret asked suspiciously. Nothing, Jake said simply. Protection isn't a transaction. It's a responsibility. We have the power to protect, so we will. Over the next hours, Jake showed them around the station. They saw the memory walls, where the names of Earth's 12 billion dead were being inscribed. They saw the cultural preservation centers, where every piece of Earth's history that could be recovered was being stored. They saw the genetic banks where DNA from Earth's species was waiting to be reborn. We lost 10,000 species when Earth died, Helen explained. We have genetic records for about 3,000. They'll live again on the new Earth. And the Zerathi? Vil asked. What's their fate? That's up to them, Jake said. They can spend the next 1,000 years bitter and planning revenge that will never succeed. Or they can learn to be better. We've sent them teachers if they want to learn. Philosophers, artists, engineers who can show them how to create instead of destroy. Have any accepted? Sina asked. A few, Amy said. Mostly the younger generation. They're curious about us, about how we became so strong without becoming cruel. It's a start. As the ambassadors prepared to leave, Sina turned to Jake one last time. Admiral, what you've done here, what you're doing, it's changing everything. Species across the galaxy are asking themselves if they want to be like the Zerathi or like the humans. What are they choosing? Jake asked. More are choosing to be like you every day, she smiled. The age of empires built on conquest is ending. The age of civilizations built on cooperation is beginning. And it started here, with Earth's ashes. After they left, Jake stood alone on the observation deck. He thought about the journey that had brought humanity here. 10,000 years of wandering, of growing, of becoming something their ancestors could never have imagined. A message came through, his communicator. It was from a Zerathi, not a leader or a warrior, but a young scientist named Tekval. Admiral Morrison, the message read, I have been studying your reconstruction of Earth. The technology is fascinating, but the motivation is what I don't understand. Why rebuild something that's gone? Why not just move forward? Jake typed his response. Because forgetting the past means repeating it. Earth reminds us of where we came from, what we lost, and what we chose to become because of it. We rebuild Earth not to live in the past, but to honor it while building the future. There was a pause, then another message. Could you teach us to build instead of destroy? Jake smiled. It was a small step, but it was a beginning. Yes, he replied. We can teach you. The first lesson is simple. Creation is harder than destruction, but infinitely more rewarding. As the days turned to months and the months to years, Earth continued to grow. The sphere of debris became a sphere of rock, then continents and ocean beds formed. The project became a symbol across the galaxy. If humanity could rebuild their destroyed world, anything was possible. 5 years after the reconstruction began, Jake stood in the same spot, but now he wasn't alone. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species had come to witness the first ocean being filled. Water from 100 human colonies poured from massive transport ships onto the reformed surface. It's beginning to look like a planet, Helen said proudly.